Hey there, welcome to Neppy Invest. Today I'll be talking about Marley Spoon. So hands up those who haven't heard about Marley Spoon yet. So this is a company based in Germany, if I believe correctly. They did IPO on the Australian market in late 2018. When they did IPO, I was a bit skeptical about the viability of a meal kit delivery service. So that's what they do. They deliver meal kits to homes. So I was a bit skeptical whether that sort of business would be able to survive in the long term, and I was skeptical for a long time. The first meal kit delivery service opened up or started in Sweden, if I remember correctly, in 2007. And there are, in the United States right now, there are about 150 different companies or meal kit delivery services. So there's a lot of businesses out there like this, but Marley Spoon is one of the biggest ones in Australia, and it's growing quite significantly in the United States as well. Probably the other one I can remember in Australia is HelloFresh. And even Marley Spoon have different services. They have a Marley Spoon one, and then they have a sort of a cheaper version, which I forget the name of. And the reason I'm becoming more and more interested in the meal kit delivery services is I'm starting to hear more and more chatter at work talking about the differences between the companies, the meal kit delivery services. When I start hearing chatter at work about companies or a sector, that's when I know it's gaining traction in the wider community, and that's actually a good thing. You want to see that sort of thing gaining traction. That happened with Afterpay. Back when they first IPO'd or started, I started to see Afterpay signs in store windows, and initially I was like, what's that? And then I started to hear talk about Afterpay, and that's a good sign that the company's gaining traction in the world. So let's have a look at the Appendix 4C for Marley Spoon in October 2020. So because they're based in Germany, all these numbers in euros, not Australian dollars. So they do have a market cap of 500 million. That's in Australia because even they're listed in Australia. So all market cap, that sort of thing, is listed in Australian dollars, but the numbers they report in their quarterly cash flow report are in euros. So 70.3 million euros, and they were cash flow negative to the tune of 1.3 in the previous quarter. So some of those numbers are down on the previous quarter, and the market didn't take too kindly to that. So as you know, I like to see the history behind a company, and as I said, I was a little bit skeptical about the long-term viability of Marley Spoon and companies like this. And you can see the growth. It was very slow growth initially. So when they IPO'd, they had only cash receipts in euros of 24.2 million. Now cash flow negative to the tune of 11.2, which is quite a lot when you think about it. And from October 18 to January 2020 this year, the growth wasn't that substantial. It was only 50% growth in cash receipts over a year and a half, and they were still cash flow negative. But COVID-19 was a massive boon for Marley Spoon. Whoops, I'm a poet and don't even know it. So yeah, Marley Spoon and companies like this benefited greatly from COVID-19, and makes sense when you think about it. In hindsight, this was a no-brainer to buy at the lows because in lockdowns, people are going to be ordering more meal kit services because maybe they don't want to cook for themselves. They're not going to do takeaways anymore, dine out at restaurants. So the next best thing is to order meal kits so you can have more convenience at home when you do a meal or begin a meal. And you can see a massive increase in cash receipts from April 20 to July 20. So that's when the period where the greatest amount of lockdowns around the world occurred. And they increased cash receipts from 43 to 73.8. Not quite double, but it was near enough. And they became cash flow positive in operations to the tune of 7.6 in July 20. So you could just think the market took that very kindly, and it sure did when you look at the share price increase. Comparing from this quarter to last quarter, yeah, things are a little bit down, but that's what you would expect. You wouldn't expect increases like we saw from April to July this year. So that sort of increases were not sustainable, but the trend is still up. So as I mentioned before, yeah, the market didn't take too kindly. I'll get into that in the next slide. But some other reports from their quarterly cash flow report, which actually do interest me a little bit more. is it seems like they are targeting United States, and that's a really good market to target. That's the market that a lot of companies want to target, want to break into, because if you can break into United States because of the population there, that's probably a very good thing no matter what you do. So they have seen 43% quarter-on-quarter growth in the United States. So that's what QOQ means, quarter-on-quarter. If you don't know what quarter-on-quarter means, it's just looking or comparing one quarter to the previous quarter. So in this fact, we're looking at comparing July 2020 to October 2020 quarter. PCP means previous corresponding period. It's not a drug. And PCP, or previous corresponding period, is comparing this quarter. So this is quarter 3 for Marley Spoon, comparing it to quarter 3 in financial year, the previous financial year. So 117% growth from the previous corresponding period. They are targeting EBITDA profitability in 12 to 24 months. So even though the previous quarter they were cash flow positive, a little bit of difference between EBITDA and cash flow, but I prefer cash flow in regards to comparisons between EBITDA and cash flow. Anyway, it's all about my preferences here, but I prefer to look at cash flow. They do have cash of 17.7 million euros, and then when you look at customers and total orders, we're seeing significant growth there when you compare to a year ago. So almost double or more than a double when you look at customers and total orders. And the graph I do have on there, just below there, we're seeing the greatest amount of growth in the United States. So 56,000 customers to 91,000. Smaller growth in Europe and Australia, but I think they are targeting United States. And when I've mentioned their increased marketing spend of 10 million euros, I think most of that is in the United States. That's where they really want to break into United States. A lot of players in the United States market, I mentioned before, 150, and I think they want to gain traction. And I think if they can do that, if they can really gain visibility in the United States, I think market cap of 500 million is probably quite low. Share price, as I mentioned before, a no-brainer when you think about this in hindsight. At the COVID-19 lows, they were as low as maybe 30, 40 cents, and significant growth since then. As I mentioned also before, when they released the July quarterly cash flow report, there was a massive gap up. You can see here, if you can see my mouse, so they went from a price of about $2.40 all the way up to almost $3.50. So significant growth in the share price. But that seemed to be the top. From about $3.50, we've seen the share price hit $3.50 3 times and bounce away from it. So that's a definite resistance line. If it breaks above $3.50, that would be when you buy in. That's really, some people find that funny. You only buy when it breaks at a significant level higher than when the share price is. That's funny, but that's how the share market works and trading works and technical works. So right now, we've seen share price really back off because the market didn't really like this quarterly cash flow report. So I don't see any problems with it. It's sort of an expectations. If compared to my expectations, it came out fairly well to my expectations. So it didn't come out well to, I think, the market's expectations. So price movements in quarterly cash flow reports is all about how it corresponds or how it relates to the market's expectations or your own expectations. Some people don't understand that you're going to get significant growth in earnings, profit, cash flow, and still have the share price decrease because it's actually less than what the market expected. So everything's based off expectations. So that's all I've got on Marley Spoon. If you are a shareholder, if you actually do use Marley Spoon, I've actually looked into these companies, looked at what they offer, and they are interesting actually. So if you are a shareholder in Marley Spoon, or if you do are taking advantage of the Marley Spoon services or maybe HelloFresh services, leave a comment and just discuss what they do. Otherwise, I'm not a professional, so if you do need professional advice, make sure you seek out a professional. So that's all for today. Have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.